Morning, gang. Dr. J, Steve Jensen from the National Sales Academy and Impact Training. So welcome to Breakfast with Dr. J. We'll see how many people pop on at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday. So we'll wait for a few people to hop on, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of Q&A at the end of this morning's session. Hello, Wes. My goodness gracious. So nice to see you, mate. Hope things are going great for you, my friend. My goodness, it's been a long time. And Jack, good to see you, mate. Hope things are going good for you. I'm sure you are kicking goals left, right, and center as usual. How's your running going? How's that running club going? Look, guys, got a good day. Good morning. Going to have a bit of a play and going to show you some strategies that I think you can implement almost straight away. Gavin, how are you? We were talking about you with Jamie just yesterday. Well done and congratulations on all your good stuff, my friend. Well, good to see some old buddies on board this morning. Got a good session for you this morning. Have a little bit of a play. And what we're going to do is to give you some strategy. So make sure you got your trusty pen handy. I know it's early in the morning. Have a sip of your coffee. Oh, Gavin, it's not too early for you, mate, but we'll see how we truck this morning. One of the things I want to make sure that we do today is have an action plan. Action plans are more important than actually just learning new stuff. And regularly I go into businesses and they have all the best of intention, but they don't have their action plan implemented. So we're very strong on having, let's say, action plans in place and having accountability afterwards. Now, the Sales Success Club and the Sales Authority Club is all about accountability. So write some of the stuff in the group and say what you're going to do after we have this little session this morning, because this action actually creates opportunity. All right, let's get cracking on some of the good stuff. Now, what I want to talk about today is to show you some ways to be able to shorten your sales cycle. The consumer out there in the big wide world is getting a lot more savvy. And long protracted sales cycles and so forth. And I know some of your businesses have a gestation period that takes a period of time. But as a big but or however, if you actually try to present your product and service, let's say from the low ground, the sales cycle is going to be long. Now, the way to fix this is to make sure that you have a thing called credibility. Now, credibility is something that's often spoken about, but rarely achieved. So I want to give you some things to do which allow you to have a good understanding on how to create a credibility model which allows you to shorten that sales cycle. Now, when we say sales, it's a decision-making cycle, so it can be used in your personal life as well as your professional life. So let's put that into perspective. I was speaking to a really great friend of mine, a wingman, confidant, one of my best friends on the whole wide world, Mr. Steve Renata, a great man. And we were talking about the sales cycle, and he quoted me something, and I'm going to read it to you. You can only move forward at the speed of trust. You can only move forward at the speed of trust. I think that's absolute gold. Because if we look at our sales processes, all of them, whether you use the ITC one or other types, you're not going to get to the next step. It is always about what's next, what's happening next. If we don't have a what's next mentality, we're not going to move forward. But sometimes we start from the low ground, and that's because the person doesn't know, like, or trust you. So the question we have for you, what level of trust between you and your client do you have? What level of trust do you have between you and your prospect? Do you have? And what are you going to do to create enough trust to have the person say, hey, I believe you. I want to work with you or have your product or service, and I'm happy to give you my time and my money because I trust you. Think about it. The times you've actually made big decisions and so forth because there was a level of trust. That's where the I want to think about it, shop around, objections come from. Or look, I'll get back to you because I might not I trust the outcome. I trust you, but I'm not quite sure on the outcome. Well, that's a trust. If we don't actually have that trust mechanism in place, it's easy to say and often never spoken about. So we have processes that we've taught lots of people, and most of the gang that are on this morning know them. The process of 9, where we actually share the information backwards and forwards, where we then have at least 2 pieces of commonality and have a conversation about them and continue that dialogue throughout the communication. That creates trust. But I want to give you something you can take away today without going through a process of 9 processes and all those sorts of things this morning, because I'm going to give you a strategy that works 100% of the time. So just give me a bit of a few thumbs up that you got your pen handy. Just want to make sure that you're alive and not just sitting there in the background as noise. So just give me a bit of thumbs that know that you're a likes or whatever, that you're around. And I'm going to give you some process to work with. All right, here we go. Now, one of the things that we have to get sorted out is making sure that we have success stories. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, guys, girls. If we have success stories and you actually have the opportunity to have those success stories broadcasted to your consumer, your clients, your prospects. Success stories are one of the best ways to actually create credibility and trust. Because guys, the first thing is, it's you can't blow your own trumpet. You can't say, oh, look, we're the best, we're the first, and all of a sudden, that's okay in your marketing, and you can certainly do that in your presentation. But blowing your own trumpet, people are just going to say, yeah, but, because they know you want their business. So success stories, if you've got a proven track record, are something that you need to nurture. You need to make sure that you start talking about them and talk about other people's success, not your success, other people's success at using your product and or service. In other words, that's called a proof mechanism. Now, lots of people say, oh, look, we have tons of clients that love our product and service. We've got all these, people that would say this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, we don't actually proactively create brand new success stories on a regular basis. If your product works or your service works and you've got some raving fans, I'm going to give you a strategy to be able to take away and put into play. People trust people that are experts. However, they're also going to trust people that care. When we actually care, we actually do more, or we do the little things that make a big difference. So I'm just going to give you some strategies in here to keep in the back of your head. The next thing is, if you have proof of what other people said about your product and service, that's going to lower barriers. You don't have to go into the convincing modality. The convincing modality is actually absolutely a disaster. If you try to convince somebody to buy something or get a product and or service, you're going to have a problem, because they're going to say, wow, he's trying to coerce me into that. That's the old sales process. So if you've got a proof mechanism, which what other people say, that's going to lower the fear and increase the trust. All right, the next thing is, when we go through the sales process, we all know we have to find a compelling reason. However, I'll just make it very clear to you. When we actually do all that, we can't do that until we have massive amounts of, let's say, permission. We need to have enough rapport to get permission to find out the compelling reason. Now, when we find out those protocols, Richard, good to see you, mate. Just thinking about you this morning. And Simon, oh, terrific. We've got a great crew on this morning. It's terrific. Welcome, gentlemen. As I was saying, when we find a compelling reason, The person's not going to tell you the truth, the real truth. In other words, show vulnerability, a pain, a frustration, a disappointment that they're having, and unless they like and trust you. We go through a sale model and we go straight into our process, but we don't have that area of trust. Come back to what Steve Renata said. We can only move forward at the speed of trust. So if we don't have these things in place, the best sales cycle in the world, or the best sales process in the world, this doesn't include that trust, the unspoken feeling that we talk about. We can't find a compelling reason. We can't find a vulnerability, and the person's not comfortable in telling you what that vulnerability or pain is. So then we just go into a big ramble about our product and service. We go into red brain, and guess what? They go, want to think about it, shop around. It costs too much. So let's put this into perspective. If we're going to find someone's compelling reason to buy, in other words, they're going to spend thousands of dollars with you. They're going to trust you. I'm going to give you the money. I'm going to trust. I'm going to get what you've said you'll do. So I'm going to give you a way of doing that. First thing is, if you can't have a trust protocol, you're not going to get an outcome, whatever it is. Number one. Number two, the care factor must be there. We've got to go from that selling mentality to a helping mentality. Even to the stage where, hey, under promise, over deliver, even before they buy. The next thing is, I want to make sure we're really comfortable with this. Have a 5-step process of creating success stories. Stories are the new gambit that everyone's talking about, but from my experience, not a lot of people do the story thing well. Firstly, story about you, story about your clients in a metaphor or a conversation is great. But you're saying something about somebody else. That's a nice success story. That's one way of doing it. But I believe it's better to get the success stories from the people that have experienced your product and or service. Now, how do we do that? I had a question from one of our members in the Sales Authority Club. It was a very good question. So I answered this question, but that's one of the reasons I'm doing this today, because I wanted to go in depth of not just this is what you need to do, but why you need to do it. Okay. The first thing is the way to create your success story strategy to make sure we lower the barriers and we go into that credibility stakes and having that undiscussed and very rarely discussed feeling of trust. The first thing is you need to make a list. Get your trusty pen out and make a list of the people that you've worked with that know, like, and trust you, but also have had a great experience. That's a really important word, an experience and a result. I'll say that again. I want you to make a list of people that have had a great experience. They know, like, and trust you. And they've also had a result. Okay? Now that might be 5, it might be 10, but they've got to be raving fans, but people that know, like, and trust you. Got it? And they've got a result. That's the first step. That's number 1. Number 2, the result has to be written down. You don't just say, oh, they got a result. What result did they get? What did they start with and where did they go? Yeah. Please write this down. This is important. Give me a thumbs up that you're actually taking some action here. I just want to make sure that we're going to be doing something. Give me some thumbs up. Come on, give me some movement there, ladies and gentlemen. That'll be great. So you write down the list. You write down the result, what they started with and what they ended up with. Please take this seriously. This work's a treat. Don't just do it to keep it in here. That's a nightmare. So first one, list. People that know, like, and trust you, got a result. Then you're going to write down what did they start with the result and what did they end up with. So it's really clear in your mind, and you can remind them about it when you speak to them for their success story. Okay, number 3. I want you to prepare some questions for yourself to ask, but more importantly, to give to that person that know, likes, and trust you, that had a result journey, that they can answer either in text, and what's better is a video. Guys, gone are the days of just doing tons of text. Copy is important, but let me promise you, you've got to get people talking on video. I'm going to show you how to do this. Don't just have a picture of somebody said, hey, look at a great result that they got, and write some stuff up there. That's really let's say credibility stakes 101. We've got to be ahead of the game. If we're serious about making sure that people know, like, and trust you to the extent where they'll actually shorten the sales cycle, and let's say, let's move in and let's talk about how you're going to help me, you've got to have the credibility done before they show up, or while they're there. It's easy and quick to do. So the next thing is, have some questions that you're going to either ask or give your client, so it's easy for them to answer it. For instance, what's your name? What business are you from? Or what do you do? What was the real reason? What was the reason you first contacted us? What did you expect? What was your problem? What did you actually get in a tangible modality? Could it be money? It could be losing weight. It could be getting stronger, whatever it may be. More leads. Yeah. And what was the specific outcome? With a definition of the outcome. So many kilos, how much more money? A number has to be involved in the success story. Could be a duration. And then you can ask the question in there, say, look, what would you say to somebody who had the same sort of challenge as you, that they wanted it fixed? They will probably, more than likely, hopefully say, use your product or service. Last question. What would you say to someone that was sitting on the fence, not knowing what to do, whether they should or whether they shouldn't? Let them say that too. Now, that could be in text, but you know what? The video format is so much better. So, the last step of this morning's Brekkie with Dr. J is I'm going to now read off to you the steps. There are 7 steps to making sure that you create your success story, but how to ask for your success story. It's no good having a great strategy if I don't give you the strategy to be able to go and have a conversation with your client to get the success story. So let's put this into perspective. Tim Hyde, thanks for joining me. Terrific. What a great crew we got. Don't know what happened there. I think I was talking to myself for a bit. Anyway, rebooted. Here we go. I wonder how many people will pop back on. But anyway, so I'm just going to recap number 4. And number 4 was about having the list. That list is critical. Hello, Brad. How you going, my friend? Nice to see you. Hope you're having a good time overseas. The list. The list is having the list of all those clients. Number 2 is having the result, what they started with and what they ended up with. Number 3, give them the questions. And number 4 is making sure that you ask those people to actually give you the, let's say, the success story. And the last one here is to teach them how to do it. As I said to you in the last part before I dropped out, it is quite critical that if you're going to get them to do a video, you teach them how to do the video. The video shouldn't go any longer than 2 to 4 minutes. A credibility video is far better than just a whole lot of text. As I said to you earlier, you make sure that you teach them what to do, what to say, introduce themselves, tell them why they first actually got in contact with you. What was their problem, their pain? And then what you want to then do is say, what did they expect? Remember? And then what do they get? In other words, the result. Now, remember, as I said earlier, we need to make sure that it's tangible. So have a number involved. And then once we have the number, we just say, hey, what would you say to somebody who was thinking of getting their challenge fixed, whatever you do? What would you say to them? And then the last question would be, well, what would you say to somebody that was sitting on the fence? Then you're done. So now we got that done. We're up to number 5. The last part of what I'm going today is when I dropped out. So here it is. How to ask your clients for their success story. Number 1, make sure that you go to the client that loves you. And number 2, have a chat with them about the results that they have achieved. Have a chat with them about the results that they have achieved. Remind them of what they came to you with and what's happened, and give them some kudos. Remember, these are people that are on your list that have got a great result, but talk about the tangible. Remind them where they came from and where they are right now. It could be in the amount of leads they've got. It could be how big or strong they are, or how much weight they lost, or they're living in a wonderful home now. Well, and I'm sure you get the gist. Confirm the outcome. After the chit chat and you've got a little bit of commonality going on with all that sort of stuff, what you want to do then is tell them, hey, look, I'm actually putting some success stories together. Don't ask them for a referral. Don't ask for a recommendation. Don't ask them for a testimonial. That doesn't work. So I'm putting some success stories, and boy, by jolly, you are really a success story. Remember, you've just confirmed with them what it was. We've taken them on the journey from when they started to where they are now. And then you say, hey, I'm putting some success stories together, and I'd love you to be part of that. Now, if this person knows, likes, and trusts you, they'll say, I'll be my pleasure. Now, remember, you'll have the strategy in the back of your mind where you're then going to go through and give them the bits that are necessary. Okay? The next part. With the questions you give them, say, I'd love you to use these questions as a pro forma on what to say. But more importantly, could you do a video? Just get your little iPhone or your Samsung out and just do a video. Let me show you what to do. So make sure you tell them if they're going to do a video to make sure it's in line with their nose, not up their nose. All right? Make sure that they're close enough so they can hear it, and tell them to practice it 4 or 5 times. Remember, it's only 2 to 4 minutes. So give them the questions in the sequence I gave you earlier and say, hey, I don't need to interview you. All I need to say is, hey, I thought I'd just pop on and I've just got something great to tell you. A little while ago, I had this problem. And you tell them what to do. And you do a little bit of practice, drill, rehearse, as you know. Once you've actually taught them how to do it and you've given them the questions, this is one thing that I've haven't done well myself, is when people very generously like to be part of our success stories. I said, oh, terrific, let's get that rocking and rolling. They say, yeah, Dr. J, we're going to put it into play. And guess what? They get busy and it doesn't happen. So what we need to do is you want to make sure that you say, I want the video for 2 to 4 minutes, do the practice, use the questions, but when do you think you'll be able to get it to me? And set the date. Remind them of the date. Make sure it's a fair and reasonable time, a week or whatever the case may be, but make sure that you double confirm that that date is going to be, and tell them it's important. I've actually had the mistake, say, I'll get it done when you can, you're waiting 3 months later. So if you get it on video, now sure, if you put it on, let's say, just in text is fine, nice picture. But guys, the days of just text testimonials or success stories are becoming far and few between. I know a lot of people still do them. It doesn't work as well. So to recap what we've spoken about today, number 1, we want to have credibility and we want to make sure that we short the sales cycle. We need to make sure that we talk about the unspoken feeling of trust. And as my friend Steve Renata said, You can only move at the speed of trust. I think that's gold. I told you how the success story works. Get your raving fans, then create a success story model by getting the pictures. Sorry, not the pictures, the questions. And then when the questions are done, teach your person how to do it. Create rapport, remind them of the result, where they came from and where they're going. Make sure they're really clear on what to say. Get them to practice it 5 or 6 times and have a 2 to 4 minute video. I'd love to see your success stories. Why don't you pop a few of your success stories in our group? That would be great. Pop it in to the group and let's hear about some of your success stories. You're all champions and you've got great products also and services. So why don't we have a little goal here? Why don't we say the next 7 days, you'll get at least one success story and you go through the strategy to shorten your sales cycle so you're not on the low ground and you're on the high ground when they come to meet you, so you don't have to go through that arduous process of trying to convince other people saying that you are good. Openly saying it on video is much more powerful than marketing saying that you're the best, you're the first, you're the only. All right, gang, I'll see how this looks on Facebook. I might need to download it and bolt it together, but if it's looking pretty nifty, I'll leave it as it is. So for those of you that are still on board, are there any questions you have on your success strategy to making sure that you have a credibility process and how to do the success story model? If you got any questions, pop them in the chat section, the comment section or whatever, and I'll answer your questions. If not, I know it takes a little bit of a delay, but if not, we'll say ta-ta. And as I said, I'll see how this looks. We're all good to go. Hey, Amy, how you going? I'm just wrapping up. Anyway, I actually started early and then it dropped out and I jumped back on again. Hope you're great. Love your new picture on Facebook. You look terrific. Right, gang. Doesn't look like there's any questions. So I will hope you have a good weekend. I'm sure you will. It's nice and cool outside. And I'll chat with you a little bit later. Bye for now.